Welcome back to It Hurts to Be This Pretty podcast. I feel like you, because normally you do the intro. I'm Lexi Wilk.
And I'm Angel Martinez, your host, and welcome back. It's still the love month, but this time we're talking about something else, not love, stress that comes with love.
Is he aging you? Is she aging you? Is something in your life aging you? But more so like toxic relationships.
Which I've been part of one. Have you?
Yes.
Like for a long
I
term.
kind of was the toxic.
You toxic bitch, you. I'll show a photo. I pulled one up. I tried to find more, but of how what we're about to say is so true, that if you are in a toxic relationship, it can actually age you faster. And you might be thinking like, how is that even possible? It's fine. Like, you just know how to deal with stress, especially if you're the toxic one, or if you're in a toxic relationship, it becomes normal. Yeah. Like, it becomes your everyday. Like, even when I was in my toxic relationship, I remembered that we were going to fight probably every weekend. Mm-hmm. And in my brain, I was like, okay, a big fight's going to happen. He'll leave.
Isn't
he'll
that
come
crazy?
back. Yeah.
Like, you premeditate it and then it happens.
And then I'm like, okay, I actually know how to deal with this. And so, yeah, anyway, I've done a lot of therapy since then, but I can honestly say that I looked older at 38, 39 because I was in my toxic relationship that I do now at 46. Yeah. What would you say as far as you, like you say you were the toxic one, but I feel like
it was toxic. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you feel like you were more stressed? How did you feel?
Here's the thing. I was younger. So my whole life was just one big stressor. I wasn't happy at my job. I was partying every weekend. This is before I worked for you. But yeah, I do. And I feel like I look better now at 30 than I did any of my 20s. I started dating this guy when I was in college.
Okay.
So it turned very toxic. But something that's really trending is the cortisol face. I'm sure you've seen it on the internet. Everyone has that puffy look when they are just under
the moon face.
The moon face.
Mm-hmm. It's our cortisol levels get spiked up, and it causes a lot of inflammation, not only in your stomach, but also your face, which causes creases in your eyes, unnecessary wrinkling, especially when you go to sleep with that high cortisol levels, if you're even sleeping, because when you're that stressed, you have this broken up sleep. And so let's address the first issue, because if someone's in a toxic relationship, I was in a very, very toxic relationship. It is easier said than done than to say, well, why don't you leave? Because you don't want to just say leave so you can stay looking younger, although that is a great bonus. The amount of stress that is being pumped in your body can cause so many other illnesses. It's not just about aging. It's literally stomach issues, headaches, insomnia. It's been linked to cancer, high stress levels. So tell me, what would you advise someone if they're in a toxic relationship right now? I want to know what you would say to them if they're like, and this is something, keep in mind, because the advice you give, you're talking about someone who's in this relationship for 2 years. And maybe he's abusive. Maybe he's verbally abusive. Yeah. And then you tell someone leave and they're like, okay, settle down. Like, they're not just going to leave like, oh yeah, Lexi told me to leave and it was just so great.
Right.
Advice.
Well, we've been there, right? Mm-hmm. So my first question is, I wanted to address with them, do you think it's toxic? Like, are they even aware of how toxic it is? Because a lot of the times when you talk to your girlfriends or people who are in an abusive relationship, they aren't even aware of how bad it is. Mm-hmm. So I think that's step one, is acknowledging like, holy shit, yes, this person is weighing on me. It's extremely toxic. So identifying that, but increasing your self-worth, I think, is going to be number one, which is another thing, so much easier said than done.
Yeah.
But really knowing who you are, what you deserve, and having the confidence to say, I could be fine without this person in my life. But building up your self-worth is going to be step 2, 100%. Would you agree?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's hard to notice your self-worth, because if you are in a toxic relationship, you're not thinking you're worthy of anything more. So it's really hard to just be like, oh my God, I'm going to start doing self-love. You're just in a robot phase. You're learning how to deal with his toxic. And I can only speak for myself. When I was in this somewhat abusive relationship, I would go home, go to bed. I was raising my 3 kids still. And like, how am I in this abusive relationship? How am I tolerating this? How do I get out? I was embarrassed, not just because I owned a business and I was on social. We made it, what you make it official on Facebook and Instagram. it's humbling to say, guess what, we broke up, because you get the questions, right? But also I'm like, do I deserve more than this? Because you're talking about someone who's going to break you down. Like, you're just a fucking single mom. No one's going to ever want you. You're a piece of shit. And so you start to believe that. Mm-hmm. You start to think like, maybe this is it for me, you know? And then you have the good moments, which the good moments are what is hard for a woman to leave, because you hold on to those moments that like, oh, he could change. Yeah. I think he could change. I think it could be better. And I was in that moment because I saw his good side. And listen, I don't know where he's at now. I don't care. It's not, I wish him the best. But for me, I knew he was bad for me. And I was embarrassed to leave after 9 months of just making it all public to say, oh my God, it's done. Yeah. And when you say moon face, I mean, I was puffy. And you knew me at this time I hired you. I was running a business. I was doing some national TV stuff. I was a functioning leader, quote unquote leader, but wasn't a leader. I was literally inside just falling apart. And when I look back at photos like the one I'm going to show you, this was getting ready to be on national television on Daily Blast Live. It was one of many, right? And so I was on, I felt cute, but I didn't feel good inside. And I remember sitting there on that chair, like thinking, what if he's cheating? What if he's that? Like,
you weren't even present.
I was not present. And I was so stressed all the time, which means no sleep, which means drinking more. And then you're not even present for your own friends because you can't even deal with your own shit. So when you say self-love, it's really hard to find that you even love yourself, because I can honestly say I didn't love myself back then. I didn't love, and I didn't know how. For me, it was a project, and I could make him better. I saw the best in him, and I was going to help him with this and that and that. And all the time, it was me just chipping away at me. My self-love, chipping away to the point where I looked over at my daughter and my kids. My daughter was still living with me at the time. And I'm like, oh my God, this is my life. Like, I can honestly say, had I not got out of that toxic relationship, I would not be as far as I am today in business and personally. Put aside looks and stuff and all that, like, because I do feel healthier. Had I stayed in this relationship, I know for a fact. And it's really hard to seek help. And the first step is admitting that, like, you're in a toxic relationship and you need to get out. But no one can make you make that decision, only you.
Right.
It's like, I can't say there was one thing that, like, happened that I was like, oh, because he had, there was cheating, there was things going on, and I still didn't leave. I still, he had the crying, and I forgave him. But then I was like, I think it was, and I remember it because it was the end of 2019. I'm like, I can't be in this. Yeah. And I looked and I'm like, this is what I'm showing my kids, that this is the example of what love is. And I just couldn't do it anymore. And I think he thought I was kidding. And I wasn't kidding, because there was, I'm going to leave and I'm this and that, and breaking up and getting back and breaking up, because there's that toxic, which I grew up seeing that. When you grow up seeing your parents do that, or people that support you, it becomes your normal. And subconsciously, you gravitate towards the toxic, because that's how I knew how to deal with toxic people. Now, I think when you admit it, but then it's actual change, right? So for me, getting out was sticking my ground and surrounding myself with friends to help support me in this decision, because those friends heard that same thing like 5 to 10 times in a month sometimes. Yeah. Like, I'm leaving him. Okay, Angel, you're leaving him. But having those friends that are like, she's really leaving him, and you would call, if it's just one friend, that's all you had. I'm feeling lonely tonight. Can we go for, a drink, or can we hang out? I think supportive friends or family members is going to be key to your first step. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like you were saying too, you're too embarrassed to even bring it up to people. Mm-hmm. But once you do, you're going to have a friend that gets probably very annoyed of you saying the same thing over and over again. That's not a true friend. True friends stick with you, and they know how hard it is. So I feel like, yeah, it's obviously not an easy thing to leave a toxic relationship, mm-hmm. but
it is hard, especially when you're surrounded by people who have partners or someone or girlfriends, boyfriends, and you know that you're going to go down this lonely path, which for me has been the best path to heal since 2019.
Well, reframing what lonely is, right?
Yeah.
The best thing.
Yeah. I mean, loneliness also can be, it's okay to feel that. Like, it's okay to not always surround yourself with things and people and be stimulated in that way. And I had to kind of break myself down a bit to rebuild myself. And when I say break myself down, I mean being vulnerable, saying I'm telling my kids, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I put you through this. I'm sorry that you had to see me go through that. And being okay with saying I'm sorry.
You also shouldn't have to apologize for...
Yeah. But
I don't think you should have had to apologize, honestly.
I think as a mom, it's okay to be vulnerable and say, I shouldn't have gone down that path, but now I'm going to choose better. And I think they've seen me the past 5+ years do better. Yeah. The trash man's here. Speaking of toxic love, taking the trash out.
Dump him. Well, so with TikTok going away, and by the time this episode airs, it might be gone.
If someone doesn't buy it, correct?
If someone doesn't, in the US. I don't know the exact details, but I feel like TikTok, for better, for worse, obviously there's a lot of toxic shit on there, speaking
Sure.
But it has been, for me personally, and I know many others, a really great resource. Hearing others' stories, having access to therapists, honestly, posting about how to leave toxic relationships. And I'm really sad to see it go, because I think for me and many others, it's been a really great resource to hear other people struggling and going through the same issues unfiltered. So if you don't feel like you have, friends and family, you can have this online network of people, but...
Friends and family.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I think my issue was I was too young and I wanted to control him more. But there was a night before I started working for you, all I wanted was to do something in the skincare industry. And he locked me out of his house and was on the curb, standing over me, screaming that I'm a fucking idiot, worth nothing. You're never going to be successful. So the day I put my Instagram public, I'm like, you better see this shit.
It always feels good, huh? A little bit.
I mean, I was never like, no.
Okay, so let's talk briefly on, I don't know how we ended.
Where did we end that? Anyways, yeah, TikTok going away, great resources, but have resources and people.
So the way that the skin ages, quickly, the collagen breaks down, dullness and dehydration. That's probably just lack of sleep and your mind just constantly going, your stress level. When I'm stressed, I lose hair. I have lots of headaches, and I definitely, if you've seen me in the past or my social, you just scroll down to 2019, you can see this big round face. It looks very, very different. Acne and inflammation too. I had our good friend who helps us with women's. She's gone through something really big, and I'm like, something's going on with you. Like, she didn't say it initially, and that's, again, a friendship that's built. After the 3rd visit, she had cystic acne all the way where you couldn't even see part of her skin. It was just all filled with acne. And she said, I'm trying to leave my toxic relationship. And she just cried through the whole session. But that's a pure example, because she had clear skin before. But if you're acne prone and you're going through that much stress, the telomere is shortening. So your DNA actually starts to shorten just from the stress levels. That could happen even just lack of sleep, by the way. Hair aging. We were talking about this earlier. When your hair is brittle, looks dry, it's literally caused by stress. So I want to show you this photo. This is me in 2019, a few months before I left him.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were like, oh my God, that's not a big deal. I'm like, yes, it is, because that was me in 2019. And I look at this picture and I know she's sad. Yeah. I know that she was unhappy, but trying to put on a front and making everyone think that she was going to be okay. And I was, again, having an aha moment to come to Jesus moment of like, okay, Angel, you got to leave your toxic relationship. And I do think I look healthier. I mean, I am 46. Yeah. It is what it is. But I feel healthier because my stress level of having to worry, and women go through this all the time. Is he cheating? Like, I have women who are like putting trackers on their husband's cars.
Constantly in that fight or flight.
Yes. And then, we're good detectives. Don't get me wrong. If we're sensing something, we will
know.
We will find out. Don't you worry. Yeah. But to always be on that state of like, is he cheating? Is he cheating? Like, I have such peace in my mind and I go to bed with peace. And yes, it does get lonely and it does suck. The love month, it's hard. It's my favorite month. I haven't got flowers in so long that I can't remember what it feels like to get that like attention. But I do have peace, and I would rather choose peace than worrying, oh my God, what is he doing? The stress that comes with it.
And sometimes women bring that onto themselves. Like, I am Exhibit A. I talk about this with my therapist on a week-to-week basis. It's really hard for me to trust people for whatever reason in relationships. So,
just women and men, right? Or is it just men?
What do you mean?
Like, is it hard for you to trust women?
Men.
Just men. Okay.
Yeah, in relationships.
Yeah.
So sometimes you're creating that stress for yourself. You become addicted to it based off of previous experiences in relationships where someone has broken your trust. But yeah, it's something you might have to work through on your own. Oftentimes, your guy or your girls make you feel like you can't trust them. But yeah, stress, it's called the silent killer for a reason. It leads to heart disease. It leads to your skin deteriorating. Like you were saying, the increase in cortisol actually breaks down collagen and elastin. But also finding ways to decrease that stress is really hard. You have to put in the work. You can do all the treatments you want, but it's not going to benefit you in any way if you're living this constant fight or flight. Your adrenals are fatigued.
I had all the treatments at my fingertips and I still looked, and not that I looked bad. It's just I looked unhappy. I looked swollen. The moon face was a real thing right here, okay? And also my tummy. I remember being very swollen in my tummy.
Your digestive system doesn't work properly. Therefore, the acne shows up on the skin.
Yes.
Another thing about stress and acne. So you've obviously seen my acne pictures. Most people that listening have. When I was really, really at my lowest with the acne, I was eating a lot of processed foods and working out a lot. High intensity interval training, like constant cardio, constant everything. So I think self-inflicted stress through your diet, through your exercises that aren't necessary, really led to a spiral. It deteriorated my hormones. It created, I didn't have a man stressing me out. I was creating my own stress. So your daily habits also create a stressful environment. I'm getting stressed just thinking about it.
Well, we talked earlier last week about tapping, and I overheard you just because in my therapy session after EMDR, she'll have me tap. And what tapping is you start tapping and you tell explain it a little bit, because I think for most people that when I first saw it and she had me do it, I thought, oh my God, I can't believe she's making me do this. And I have to say it out loud. And it really helped. Like when I had to she made me go on a date last year. And for the first time in a long time, I was so nervous. And she's like, when you feel that, I want you to tap before you go on to the date. And I felt so much better just to recognize like, I'm feeling really nervous right now. It's making me really nervous. I feel like I'm not a good dater. And you tap, these are your, what are they called? You're tapping your points of
like your neurons. So it's called neuro-linguistic tapping.
So your neuron, like you barely tap though.
Yeah, I'll have to knock in your face.
Slap the shit out of yourself. Be like, no, but you tap, and then as you get closer to your chest, you're gonna say, "But I'm gonna be okay.
Yes,
I'm gonna be okay. This date is gonna go okay, and I'm worthy of of love." And I'm just being honest. Like this is me, how I have to be on a date because I'm not used to dating. And I'm used to work. I was successful and fine, and I loved it.
Nervous going on dates. It's nerve-wracking.
But mine was like extra. If I didn't have alcohol involved and I had to be vulnerable, I just was like, "What? Why are you asking me? Who gives a shit?" You know what I mean? Like I was very, like, I don't know, just mean kind of. Yeah. So I think for me, it just has helped tapping, and then also wanted to know what you did because you create like you said, if you've been hurt before, you create scenarios sometimes in your head and you almost believe them. Yep. And so your body doesn't know the difference with time. And so it's like, oh, I remember that feeling of her feeling rejected. And so you're feeling your body's, that cortisol levels up. So in that moment, what are you doing?
So, I mean, I think initially something that I tell myself as learned per my therapist, you have to stop your thoughts somehow, right? So is it fact or is it fear? That's what I always ask myself. Is this a true thing that is happening right now, or is it something I'm fearful of in the future? And you literally tell your thoughts to stop. And it takes a lot of practice because look, I've spiraled my whole life. I'm rewiring my brain. But looking in the mirror and like recognizing you're here, fucking stop. You tell yourself to stop and shut down those thoughts. But it also can be healthy to get them out, journal, write it out. Fact versus fear. Is he actually out right now fucking someone while I'm at work? Or am I just afraid that it's going to happen to me again and I'm going to end up lonely? It always, when you write down your thoughts, you start to recognize your patterns. And then the tapping, I love it. I feel like, you know, I am really anxious right now, but that isn't a real scenario. Or, you know, he's going to Vegas next weekend and I'm really stressed, but it's going to be okay regardless because I'm a strong.
And it's like this, when you create scenarios and you think that they're true, this heat that gets in your chest that feels like
something takes over you.
Yeah, it's like it's a heat. It's like my throat, my chest, and I haven't felt that in a long time just because I don't have that partner. But I remember that feeling, and that feeling is hard to it's hard to think about anything else or even be present because you're just thinking about that.
Nothing else.
So I like the idea of writing it down. I'm lucky that my therapist is like, text me. Text me exactly what you're feeling and let me help you talk you through it, and then we'll do some tapping. So I think writing down is nice. Not everybody has a therapist, you know, at text level, but I think writing it down and getting it out and just putting it away so that way what you feel is valid, but it's not real in this moment.
And stepping out of yourself in your routine for a moment. Go outside, put on your headphones, change the subject in your head. You know, we let ourselves spiral. Most of the time, it's like almost like a fun little, it's not fun, but it's a little activity that you're so used to. You truly have to rewire. So like going outside, putting on your headphones, cleaning, all manic clean all the time. But it helps.
Yesterday, I cleaned my faucets.
She texted me on a Sunday, how do I clean my shower head?
I'm like, I have all the products, but my grandma always cleaned with vinegar and I just hate the smell. But I wanted to do it a lot more safer. Anyway, that's what I do when I have this, like my mind is going and racing. I also think putting social media away for a while I think as women too, we want to instigate, or if you like someone, who is he following? Listen, I stopped doing that a long time ago. I just don't, unless it's like we're joking and we're like, oh my God, he's
got to keep tabs on.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we're still a little crazy and that's okay. But to the point where it's altering your day and you're not functioning and you're talking about it with everybody and you're just like, okay, come on. At some point, stop. And you're
Snap
just
yourself out of it.
Speaking that into your life. Know that you're the prize. Know that you have the power and like it's going to be okay. And if not, change it so it is okay. Change it so your scenario is and you are at peace, because I look back at that picture at 2019 and I felt like I was losing control of everything. And maybe I was. Perhaps I would have not been here. But I just think for me, I had to take control of me first, because you can't control your man. Women try to control their men and you can't. Like
there's nothing you can do.
Being single now for a long time and you hear couples and the woman's like, you better not do this and you better not do that. I'm like, bitch, he's not your son. So like, stop nagging. I get so mad when I hear it, because that's going to get old really fast. And you don't want to have to mother your husband or your boyfriend or your girlfriend, because some men are just as controlling. And control what you can control. And if they're not being the way you want them, then leave. Then what are you putting yourself through all that stress for? For what? To be unhealthy and sick? Because I always say, whatever relationship you're in now, and the small thing that bothers you, in 5 years, it's going to be that same thing, but worse. It's going to bother you even worse. So if it's something small, like he snores, he's still going to snore in 5 years. If it's he chews gum or he's not polite to the waitress, or like, that is not going to change unless, sometimes they change, but I would say most of the time not. So find your crazy partner and know what you can deal with instead of putting yourself through these situations. I think for me, I've just learned to try to control what I can control. And the crazy does sometimes still try to sneak out.
Well, we're allowed to be crazy sometimes.
Yeah. She's there, and it's okay to acknowledge her, like, and acknowledge that that woman is the woman that has gone through pain, and she's been hurt, and allow you to feel that, but just don't stay there. I stayed there morning and night and evenings crying and waking up crying and then coming to work pretending with a smile. That is exhausting. And what you see right now is what you get of me. I don't try to pretend, and I'm not perfect, but I also know that it takes so long to heal from your past. For me, I can only speak for me because I've been through more than just that, like that toxic. So I would encourage anyone listening today to kind of do what you just did, what you just said. Write down what you're feeling in this moment, if you're in a toxic relationship, how you feel about that, how you feel about yourself, how do you feel at night when you go to bed, knowing if you have children and that if you're okay in that scenario. And write down on the other side, like your goals for you. And are they aligning? Because more times than not, if you're in a toxic relationship, they don't align.
And what is the worst case scenario? Write that down. What's the worst case scenario if you leave this toxic person? What's going to happen?
Marianne used to always
You're lonely for a week?
Yeah.
But then the rest of your life, you're thriving?
Maybe longer than a week, but you're right, the piece. Marianne used to always tell me, what's the worst thing that can happen, and can you live through it?
Yep.
And every time I'm like,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I will live through it, and I will be stronger because of it. And every time I'm like, I can live through that.
Yeah.
And
think of the worst case scenario 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
You will get through it.
Yeah. But acknowledging that, because that sometimes is your worst fear.
And writing down, if you stay, what's going to happen then? What do you see the next year looking like, the next 3 years? What are the patterns that you're going to repeat, that he or she's going to repeat?
What advice do you have to someone before we log off that is attracted to maybe the bad boy, the like sexy, sometimes we'll look at pictures on Mariah and we'll be like, that looks like bad. Trouble. That looks like trouble.
Not all bad boys that look bad are actually bad.
Totally.
I think up front, look for the red flags. Ask about his previous relationships. If you're new to the scene with him.
What if he lies, though?
You got to be able to detect the bullshit.
Intuition.
Protect your heart. Yeah,
intuition.
Don't fall for anything a man has to say until they've proven it to you. I think setting expectations from the start. But if your track record is going for the bad boy, you have to break that because the next one's going to be as bad as the first. But yeah, the bad boys, I've never dated a bad boy.
Were you the bad boy?
Kind of.
Really?
But, I mean, in different ways.
See that.
I was more of the partier, like,
I don't think you were the bad boy.
I wasn't the yelling, screaming, like, nasty one. No, yeah. I was like a fuck girl, but I wasn't the nasty, verbally abusive one. That's for damn sure. So, also, the next person you're with, well, here's the thing. Don't even start dating or looking at other men until you are healed and you feel comfortable. Yeah. You know this. Like, you do not want to jump to the next best thing because your unhealthy thinking patterns will just carry over. It could be the best guy on earth, but if you are in that toxic cycle, you will ruin the relationship because it's what you're used to. So you have to heal yourself first. It's just
and this has nothing to do with like financial status, who you are, what gender. If you're used to toxic and you gravitate to toxic, it's really hard to break that. And I can only speak for experience because I saw the bad boy and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get his number tonight.
More attractive.
Yeah. And for me, it was always just kind of a game. So I'm like, I'm not gonna take him serious. It'll be fun.
But then you catch feelings.
And then you catch feelings. And then there's this toxic. Yeah. It's toxic because you knew he wasn't the one from the beginning. And listen, that's why when people say like, oh my God, why are you still single? Blah, blah, blah. I get that in my treatment room. I'm going into dating with eyes wide open now. And so I'm more selective and I just don't go out with anyone, and I'd rather hang out with girlfriends because we were just saying this earlier, Galentine's Day, like your girls are what make it's a different kind of feeling. It's a different kind of love. We have such good time, and surround yourself with good girlfriends because that's what I dove into after 2020, hanging out with girlfriends, taking myself on trips and stuff like that. So do those things and then seek help if you can't afford it. The resources that you were saying. I mean, I'm not on TikTok as much, but I know there's also YouTube.
Chat GPT. This is gonna sound crazy, but I have used GPT as my therapist.
No.
Like very literally, I'm like, this is what I'm thinking right now. This is what I'm feeling. How do I change this? Good tips. I mean, again, it's just about putting in the effort and wanting to change.
Yeah.
Because it's easier to stay stuck in your thoughts. But I was on the phone with my mom recently, and she was like, since you were a little girl, you attracted chaos. Like you've been living in this chaotic state for so long. So it translates into relationships. And it wasn't until hearing that from my mom where I was like, you're fucking right. It becomes second nature to love crazy, chaos, psychotic, to the point where you start causing it.
Yeah.
So if you're in a toxic relationship, you finally decide to leave, don't move forward in another relationship until you're fully healed. And if you do move forward with another person, go so slow. Don't sleep with them for a while, right? I would say protect that, whether you think
for sure
you're unattached or not with sex.
That means sucking dick.
Attached.
That means sucking dick.
100%.
That means
seeing you naked. Wait to make out with them. Like truly, once you have sex, I saw a video on this, your DNA is literally
linked to
exchanged.
Yeah.
His DNA will be inside of you.
For sure.
So go slow.
And we attach as women, you know, the hormone after sex, we tend to attach where men don't. So that's why we get attached, right? Where more times than not, men are just like, okay, that was fun. Yeah. And women are like, I wonder if he's going to text me. Avoid that toxic part because you have control. But there's power in pussy. That's a saying for a reason.
Hold the power.
Yeah. We let it go too soon.
Right.
And I think
for me fucking Justin, the first night we talked. Literally night
we've all done it. Yeah. That's the thing is like I used to think that it was just fun in a game and like who cares? I could care less. But then I would care. And then I'm like, oh, I do care.
I'm sad now. Yeah.
Because as much as I try to be like a hard ass, I'm a softie. I'm a lover. I have this gentle side. And so when I tap into that, I'm like, oh my God, that's a feeling.
Tap into your feminine energy.
It takes a strong man to bring that out in me. It's really hard. I have yet to meet one, to be honest. But
well, they're hard to find.
They're hard to find. That's why I watch Yellowstone over and over because there's some nice.
Okay, this is another tip too. I feel one of the hardest parts when you are in a toxic relationship is it affects your sleep, which of course affects your skin in the most negative way possible and every other part of your body.
Yeah.
So trying to fall asleep when you are stressed the fuck out about your significant other, it's impossible. I used to prescribe Xanax.
Yeah.
And tranquilizers. You learn over time ways to make yourself fall asleep, but it is really hard without drugs or alcohol.
Because then you wake up thinking about it.
Yep.
I used to think, so when I divorced my kid's dad in 2010, that was 14 years of marriage. And I was it's the kind of love that breaks you, right? I was so sad. And I never drank alcohol before that. Just, never drank, never wanted to, didn't care to. The only way I was coping was drinking. And I never used to be like that. And I see and then you create this pattern. Oh, when you're stressed, drink more. Stress, drink more. And it's sad that I had to go through that. And like, I see that and I forgive her and I love her and I'm appreciate, but that's what creates the hardness as a woman. This like no one's gonna fuck with me and I'm gonna it's just this toxic way of thinking. So what you said, don't move on until you're fully healed. It's really hard to fully heal because I feel like we're always gonna be healing. Because look at how far you've come in even just a year. You're doing so well. I'm so proud of you.
But there's moments.
But there are moments and there's moments you're like the old person tries to resurface and you're like, oh, there she is. We had a moment the other day when I took you out and I had pulled someone to the side because I felt like this guard comes up when I've been disrespected just because I'm used to be treated a certain way. And when you feel like that they're treating you like that again because of your ethnicity or they think you don't have money, this fire in me gets like, nasty. And the old Angel just tried to resurface just a little bit. And I'm like, Angel, stop. Just stop.
You tell yourself to stop.
Yeah.
You say fucking stop.
Just stop. What are you doing? Who cares? You're not. Rod Smith used to always say this to me. No one should have that much power over you.
Yeah.
To control your full day.
Yes.
Why are you letting someone have that much power over you? And those words always stuck with me because I used to try to get on his nerves, and he's like, you'll never make me that angry because you don't have that power. Like, I won't ever give it to you. So listen, I'd say do what you just said for the, what did you just say?
Well, I was talking about sleep. It's just really fucking hard to fall asleep.
But what was the tip for sleep? Because not everybody has Xanax.
No. I would say don't do that, because then you become so dependent on it and you're like, oh my God, I'm so excited to take my pills at night so that I can sleep and not have to think about this for 1 second of my day. I mean, magnesium, having a wind down routine that includes things with distractions.
Social media.
So for me, I actually like scrolling social media when I'm spiraling in my mind about a specific person because it gets me out of my mind and I'm focused on other people. So it's not great immediately before bed. Of course, it definitely fucks with your circadian rhythm, looking at the light. Yeah. But sometimes, I don't know, I don't think social media is a terrible thing if it can get you out of this manic mind you're in. Just for
I'm opposite.
Set a timer. Like for me, when I'm spiraling and I scroll on TikTok and I watch cooking videos for 10 minutes, I'm like, okay. Yeah, no, I mean, I guess it's what your algorithm is too. But also just even reading a book. Like you said, your diet before bed. Oh yeah, I stopped eating so late. Snacking, I used to always have a bowl of cereal. But the main thing is that when you're in a toxic relationship, you know it. Everyone around you knows it. And only you have the power to leave. Yeah. So I would say, as someone who has been through it, it's not worth it. Not just because of your beauty and the outer, but because your mental health, if you stay in this, you're literally just training your body to respond a certain way to these toxic ways. And then even if that doesn't last, a few months later, you're going to jump right into the same thing. Learning that behavior is so fucking hard. It's hard. It's like you have to relearn how to. That's why I love EMDR, because I had to rewire my way of thinking and the way I respond to just men in general, especially when you've been hurt, not just once, many times. And if you have quote unquote daddy issues like I do, it's hard to trust men. For me, it's hard for me to trust a man just in overall. I'm with you on that boat, but mine is so much so that I'm like, I have like this masculine, like, what is he going to do for me that I can't do for myself, you know? And I had to break that down because there are great men out there. You have one of them. He's a really great guy. I think we have to give men their flowers when they are really, when I see a good guy and he has manners and I'm like, or he's treating his girl good. Yesterday I was at Lifetime. No one's around. The guy comes out. He opens her door. They're in their gym clothes. And listen, that's a little gesture, but for someone like me who's very observant to couples, I mean, maybe it's new. Who knows? I don't care. It was cute, and I'm like, that chivalrous is not dead. You know? It's rare to see. It's rare. It's rare, but I need it personally because I'm old school like that. And to feel feminine, I need that. Yeah. Because then I'm going to fucking open my own car door and I'm going to drive myself there and you're going to be my little bitch for dinner. That's what's going to happen, okay? Fair. That's what's going to happen. Fair. And so then I'm like, okay, now I'm the man, so I'm probably going to pay. And then that leads to the downhill spiral. That's when we say, stop it. That's the thing, too, because you could have just said, hey, it really bothers me that you don't open my doors. That makes me feel like you. If he's not opening my doors, I'm not even going to be with him. Yeah. Like, it's not even a second date. So there's that. If I have to know your boundaries now. If I have to be your mommy, then I'm actually so okay, because I have 2 sons that I'm still trying to parent. And even though I have even taught my sons to open car doors and pay the tab. As they should. Yeah. Or else I'm slapping them at the back of the head. Yeah. Anyway. So, okay. Toxic love. There's real love. And then there's what? There's like not toxic. There's other kinds of love. It doesn't have to be toxic all the time. Well, I think it's even more toxic to have this over-the-top extravagant, he's taking me on trips, buy me flowers, Birkin. That's even worse. Even if they're not cheating, that's fucking worse. What did you guys call it when that guy was sending me all kinds of stuff? Love bombing. That's the word I was looking for. Oh, and I've fallen for it. Oh, it's okay. Easy to fall for. Same. I was like, oh my God, I've never had this. And I didn't know that was a term until you guys told me about it, because I'm like, that wasn't a term back in my day. It's a real term. And then I'm like, well, then what's wrong with being loved? But bomb me all the way with all the love you want. But then there's motive behind the love bombing. Yeah.
they're not letting you see their real side, which in turn becomes toxic, right? But the love bombing is a love that I feel like a lot of women, I didn't know. I'm not even trying to play dumb or cute. Like, I didn't know that was a thing. Yeah. And then when we got delivery 5 days in a row with random gifts, it was weird. And I'm like, okay, now I understand. And I guess they don't want you to see their true colors, so they're masking. So I guess what their motive behind love bombing is
to control you, most likely, to reel you in and say, like, look at how much I'm doing for you. You should be so lucky, like, as a control mechanism. What was I gonna say?
That's really crazy. Yeah. I mean, I've experienced that, and now that I know what it is, gifts are nice. Don't get me wrong. Like some
Special
flowers,
a little person now and then, but it doesn't need to be over the top.
It doesn't, not especially initially right away. Like, what's going on? What's the motive behind that to try to control you, to lock you in?
Read the book, the Attachment Styles book. Just Google the Attachment Styles. Justin and I are reading it right now.
I think that's the name.
Is it Attachment Styles? Mm-hmm. Something happens when a man draws away, and you as the woman, you're thinking, oh my God, I'm going to lose him. So you pray harder. You're like, well, what can I do for you? What can I make you for dinner? Can I book this trip with you? Like, can I?
And then they pull.
Can I do this, that? Like, what do you want, baby? And that's scary. So that's another toxic pattern I've had to recognize in myself. The further away he pushes, I want to get closer and closer and closer to make sure that he can never leave me. So,
yeah, that's
tough.
That's pretty toxic.
Yeah, but the only way to break that is loving yourself and having your own agenda.
For sure.
Where you're not worried about your partner's agenda.
No.
If you are wrapped up in your own activities, your own friendships, find your own hobbies, your own life, your own passions. When someone used to tell me this, one of my guy friends, he was like, you don't focus on your fucking self. Like, do you have a hobby that you're doing every day? You go to work, but you're thinking about Justin at work all day.
Yeah.
This is a healthy relationship, all things considered, compared to my last. But it was true. And the second you dive more into the things you love doing, you stop worrying about what the fuck they're doing all the time.
Yeah. And it's more of you're afraid to lose.
Of course.
It's the fear. It's the fear. So, yeah, I think hopefully you're taking away some nuggets. And hopefully, I know
going to talk about skincare, but it pivoted.
We were
going to talk about how, like, stress in the skin. Lack of sleep, the wrinkles, how they form.
Get some sleep. That's key, okay? Get out of your toxic relationship. And everything else will kind of glow from there. Because once you get out of that, you'll focus on yourself, which in turn, you'll start doing better skincare. Definitely, there's no magic cream to take away toxic. So I think first things first, just healing you and putting yourself first. It's the hardest thing. We both testify to that, and it's so true. But we love you guys. I believe in you. Please share your story if
if
DM
us.
If you're in one, you need some help, you need some pointers, we're definitely here for you. But thank you guys. Happy Love Month. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at It Hurts to Be Pretty Podcast. Also, don't just listen. Please follow us on Spotify.
Gen Z.
And Julia. Okay, guys, we love you. Happy Hump Day.